Right.
So let's fast forward. So Philly now is, like Jonathan just says, an eds and meds town,
Right.
and it's interesting because you started out at Penn
Right.
in the cardio
Yeah.
pulmonary unit, and that's eds and meds. So now we're, as a city, one of the leading biotech research cities, with not just Penn but Drexel,
Right.
Jefferson,
Right.
Temple. We've got major research centers and
Right.
companies that are being launched out of the Science Center. By the way, the Science Center,
Mm-hmm.
what we call the Science Center now,
Right.
the full name is
Yeah.
University City.
Yep.
And you and I had the conversation before that University City actually didn't exist. It was called West Philadelphia, right?
No, didn't.
So Penn renamed it, right?
Yeah.
After they bulldozed that community and built the Science Center on
Just,
top
just
of it.
think about that. That's how bodacious they are.
Right. Right.
Call this University City.
Right.
Did you ask permission of the people?
Nope.
The Nappy natives were there before
That's
blacks and whites. Did they ask any
And you
of them?
remember when they bulldozed it, right?
Yeah.
When they knocked down all those buildings.
Oh,
to
yeah.
build up.
Oh,
So when you think about education and the role that education plays in economic development, community development, given where we are now in 2026, what are your thoughts on how should we leverage your legacy of fighting the good fight?
Well, I think what I did, I tried to follow some of the tenets. I mean, I always praise the people whose shoulders I've walked on. I get excited when I mention their names, Robeson and all. And I don't think anything's changed. I think our people and all people don't have enough knowledge about, for instance, the history of what happened. We can never. I don't think we will ever have any racial reconciliation in this country until we have racial dialogue and talk about the things we don't want to talk about.
Yes.
And
Can we get that a round of applause, please? Dr. Palmer, would you be kind enough to say that one more time, please?
I don't think there can ever have any racial reconciliation until we have racial dialogue, which is not the artsy, craftsy, touchy stuff, feely stuff. It's really
Real
hard, real dialogue. I asked my students the other day, tell me something. Why is it that you want to censor, why is it people want to censor the word nigger? And most of them don't, they're in shock. I even use the word. I said, no, look at the history of the English language. How many times have there been a censorship? Is it because for white liberals and white progressives, the word nigger is so harsh because it's a constant reminder of what their families did to black people? If it is, say it is. If you keep on lying about it and keep on pushing it up the road, right, that means that future generations are laden with this fight.
So where is the fight now? Like what's the line where the fight
I
is
think
today?
Education is a tool, and when I was fighting, I was saying, and I still continue to fight, that we should be teaching liberation education. Education is a tool for liberation. And what happens is too many of us are trying to get education to be the tool for success, a tool for being a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, what have you. And I've been all the above, right? And I don't put them any higher than anybody else that I engage, right? And so I've always been an advocate for homeschooling as one option. There's public schooling, which are government-run schools, which the government dictates what the curriculum is going to be like.
Right.
There's homeschooling, which is being run by parents, and they dictate right. And oftentimes the curriculum will be very different from what they do. But both of them wind up trying to give basics for trying to become successful in some form of profession.
Right.
And remember they named the charter school after me over in North Philly, right? The Walter D. Palmer Leadership School. And I used to tell the teachers, stop telling the children that one day they can be lawyers and doctors and engineers. Talk to them about what they can be now. Why don't you tell them one day you can be a teacher? That's one of the highest and most noble things that you can do is be a teacher, okay? Right. And teaching is an instrument for our liberation, right? We need educators and teachers. I believe in school choice. In the 1980s, I joined the school choice movement, but I guess I was always a part of it because I was always pushing for homeschooling, right? And freedom schools, right? Freedom schools weren't to replace public schools, it was to augment, like the Jews did with their schools, is to give you things that you're not going to get, right?
Right.
That's why I say to people who holler about Donald Trump, Donald Trump is a racist, yes, but so is Joe Biden. Neither one of them worked on their racism. And acknowledge it. Where's the acknowledgement? Where's the acknowledgement? You have to acknowledge the fact that you've been racialized. Black people have participated in maintaining slavery for black people. Until they admit it and take ownership for it and talk about what ways they've been complicit, right? Then they're not going to be liberated. So it's about self-liberation, right? I have to admit the fact that there are times when I bought into the white narrative growing up. I took time to understand, right, that this was contrary and adverse to my own interests, okay? And that's a fight, that's an ongoing fight. And when I went into the Penn, I swore I'd never teach at Penn. Some young white kids came off the campus and had been reading about me in the papers and television, stuff like that, and asked me would I come. They wanted to have me teach a course on urban life. Right? Right. I said, I can't do it because these guys are conspiring against my neighborhood, against my community. Now, I'm a professional. I'm at Children's Hospital. I'm director of cardiopulmonary management at Children's Hospital. I wear a white lab coat and stethoscope by day and a black leather jacket and go in the black bottom to protect the black bottom at night.
Wow.
So
when you say liberation, education, what does that look like today?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to get people to understand. We're enslaved physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So liberating yourself from dependencies of these four facts, right, are critical. Liberating ourselves from our own addictions means we have to first face the fact that we have some addictions. And I'm not just talking about drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about the mental and emotional addictions that we've gotten, right? And then you have to work in terms of how to overcome these addictions and these petty notions we have. For instance, like when I was at the postal card, not the postal card. Last week we're in some Barber's Hall.
Barber's Hall, yep. Yeah. Just talking about Jake.
I was telling the audience, black people have to recognize their own faults before they can cure them. We have to be honest about who we are. Black men, in many ways, have been injurious to black women. I said, and we never really understood what our relationship should be to women. A woman is the mother. Only a woman can duplicate what God has been able to do, create human beings. She's the instrument for total evolution of the world, society. Take her out of the equation, we can't do it.
I want you to know you're starting to sound like my wife. But
well, good. So I said thank you. Tell I said thank you. And the thing is, she carries us in her womb. Right. We have to eat and nourish off the food and nourishment that she has. Right. She goes through this for 9 months, almost a whole year. Her life is threatened while we're inside of her body. Anything could happen to her, right? Once we come out, we nurse off her nipples. We're cuddled in her arms and on her chest. We lay on her belly. We grow up, she's protected us. She'd die, she'd kill a brick for us before she let anybody hurt us or harm us. Yeah. When it comes time for death, right? No parent should ever have to bury their child. But we're in a situation where many times children are being buried before their parents are being buried. And we know who's doing the death. We know who's selling drugs in the neighborhood. We know who's got the guns in the neighborhood. We know who's stealing from one another. And we keep on acting like we don't know. And we keep on saying it's white people's fault. I don't give white people that much power. You have to take some ownership for the things that are going wrong in order to change them. You can't change them if you don't fess up, right? And my manhood and your manhood, I believe, our manhood lies in our ability to admit who we are and what we've been. And I have not always been on that same page. When I was younger, I was socialized just like so many of us. This is what it is to be a man.
Dr. Palmer, let me interject for a New York second. How does that align with, Chad, hopefully you guys can chop it up about this, with the African American STEM yield being 1% out of our school district of Philadelphia? In other words, graduates through the school district pipeline getting degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math is 1%, and 60% of that 1% is from a small cluster of schools: Masterman, Girls High, Central.
Special admit schools.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Can y'all talk about that?
Let me add one more thing to that.
Yep, sorry.
Currently today, 2026, by 7th grade, 90% of black students in the school district of Philadelphia are not math proficient.
Oh, I know.
Which means that 10% or less are on a path that would be successful in high school, but even less come out of high school, to Jonathan's point,
Right.
prepared. So if that's the production rate, then what chance do they have to have a successful life? I'll go back to your experience.
Nothing's changed.
You took it upon yourself to get into the Penn program back in the 50s. Well, that door is closed nowadays unless you have those skills, particularly with math. What are your thoughts on how do we change that? How do we change that
I
equation?
think that we're talking about two different things, right? Because when I talk about the human liberation thing, I think that comes before even trying to deal with the technology.
Absolutely.
What happens is our humanity is the reference, is the pillar, is the reference point, the measuring stick in terms of what we do. We have to learn how to compete in this world of competition,
Right.
but not to the point where the competition takes us over.
Right.
And we wind up being just like American society and other societies have become, right? We're in a technological lag. In the 1960s, I heard a guy say that we were in a technological lag where what happens is that we allow technology to outdistance culture.
Right.
Culture should be driving technology and not technology driving culture.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think once again, it's having a philosophical knowledge of that and making a commitment towards the fact my humanity has to be risen above my technology, right? Technology is a tool. And so STEM today, it's something else next week, and it's constantly evolving all the time.
Right.
So learning these skills is critical. But it's a separate part and parcel, right? The forerunner is finding our humanity, right? And the reason we do what we do is because we're connected with our humanity. The protection of our mothers, the protection of the elderly, the protection of children, you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
What does it matter if we all want to become proficient in STEM and we still have a society and a community which is being devoured by its own? Mothers know that their sons are selling drugs, right? Won't say anything because they're helping to put money on the table for rent. That's survival. I understand it. I mean, I love speakeasies, not just because my grandfather had one, but because I recognize what the speakeasy did. I called it the underground, the Negro economy, right? Numbers, and we would not, some of us would not have gone to college if it wasn't for the speakeasies. It wasn't for the number writers, right?
So if we accept the numbers then as indicators that the system is failing. And
It's only a reaffirmation of what we've already known.
correct. So is part of the solution then for the black community, it's Black Philadelphia, to take the responsibility of educating its own kids, whether they're in a school district school, a charter school, or a homeschool? In other words, provide the context in which the kids can learn about themselves. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think that's part of it. But you also have to have support systems because there are people who are not learners. There's all kind of learners, right?
Right.
And a significant number of your children don't know how to study, don't know how to test.
Right.
So you've got to work with them on all that stuff, right? But the reason that we get excited or should get excited about this stuff is because we're in this tug of war with in search of our humanity. I went to a Black Nationalist convention in the 1960s, held up in New York, upstate, right? And it was all these activists from all over the country, Black nationalists, right? And they were talking about where we're going to go, where we're headed, right? And they were talking about Black power and Black nationalism, et cetera. So after everybody had their say, about 100 folks, I said, I believe that our blackness is an interim ethic towards trying to find our ultimate who we are, which is really our humanity. Well, it got quiet and daylight became night. How dare you challenge the idea of blackness being permanent? So on my gravesite, here lies a man who was a black man, right? And that was the highest level that he got to. He never found his humanity. He found his blackness, but he didn't find his humanity.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah. So
That's
what
a
happened
very
is,
powerful point.
and the guy said, "Well, I think you need to leave." They ushered me out. They took me, brought me back to Philadelphia because they thought that I might be in harm's way.
So in other words, you were basically saying blackness is not an end destination.
It is not.
It's your
not.
humanity.
It's your humanity you're in pursuit of, right? The dehumanization of us should not make us be inhuman. The dehumanization of us should make us rise up and want to fight against inhumanity, right?
And then that's how we connect to other people too.
Right. Why do we praise Gandhi? Why do we praise King? Why do we praise Moses? Why do we praise any of these people who found their humanity? Why aren't we praising them? Why aren't we being like them?
Yes.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I mean, I'm an uneducated guy. I mean, I self-taught for a lot of stuff. After Penn and being at Children's Hospital, Chick Coop was my mentor, Dr. Silver Coop, and it was a great man. And he gave me carte blanche to work on that field. I got a call one day as director from Massachusetts General Hospital. They said, "We need you to come to Massachusetts General right away. We need you to fly here, right? We have a baby, he is born premature, and the baby has hyaline membrane disease, and you're the pediatric specialist in terms of dealing with cardiopulmonary management, right?" I said, "I don't think I can get there fast enough because that's fatal. You can get oxygen in over the membrane, but you can't get carbon dioxide out. It's heavier, right? Molecule." So who's the baby? The baby is the president's son, President of the United States, John Kennedy. And his wife, Jackie, had his third child. Everybody knew about Caroline, everybody knew about John, but he had another child, right?
Wow.
And it was born premature.
Right.
And I was a guy who should not be at Penn State, should be in State Penn for some of the behavior I had in my younger years, right? And so now I'm saying, okay, put him in 100%, put him in an incubator. Give him 100% temperature, 100% humidity. Make it be in a personal environment. We can't go with the oxygen he needs. He can't go with 50% because if you do that, he might have retrolental fibroplasia, which is a form of destruction of the retina from the high gradient of the oxygen. I'm dictating the management of the President of the United States. I mean, but now remember, don't get so caught up in all that because remember that's a one-time event, and that shouldn't define who you are, right? Or simply it's a marker in terms of your journey, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't think about him being white.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't think about him being the president's son.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
You were reacting as a human being.
That's it. That's it.
Yes.
Well, on my tombstone, that's what I want.
Amen.
Here's a man who was in search of his humanity all of his life.
Well said.
Sometimes we'll find it, sometimes we won't. But the truth of the matter is we're lying to ourselves if we don't recognize the fact that we have contributed to our own inhumanity to one another.
But I want to point out that in your search for your own humanity, you didn't divorce that from your technical capabilities in your education.
No, no.
Those two were fused together. and
But
you
what
were able
happens,
to
well, I
express
think they're separate, but what happens is the driving force is this inner self, this humanity, right? And I come back to the whole woman thing. I said, when we go to a funeral, we should always praise the mother of the person who's in the casket.
Right.
It is the mother who gave birth to the person that we cry for
Right.
over here. Okay, and there's nothing more powerful than a woman teaches a man how to love. Men think that they somehow control women. Men think that they pick women. Women pick men. Men don't pick women.
Right.
They think they do. That's our ego.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that we condemn white males for, we brought into a lot of it ourselves. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's our education has got to disrobe the idea of color.
Right.
It has to disrobe it because it was used, right? There was no such thing as the word race in African language,
Right.
Indian language, Asian language.
It didn't
right?
exist.
It didn't exist.
Right.
Not until the Renaissance period in Europe, right? Does this word come in
That's correct.
as slave race, and it was used to justify the taking of a group of people based on their race.
Yeah.
And that was something hard to overcome. And all the institutions, including the church and the Catholic Church, supported it, right? And so I tell the students, you have to be in search of your own humanity. You have to go about the business of trying to figure out, we've all been racialized. You can't live in a racist society and not be racialized. Nobody comes in this society and not get touched by racism. And it's a role that we've been assigned to play, right? Blacks, whites, right? The roles, we're both racist. We're supportive of a racist system by virtue of the way in which we think about race, right?
Right.
It is a social construction, has no meaning, no value, and no place in biology, none whatsoever. But we continue to keep on pushing it and pushing it further away from ourselves, right? We're pushing it away from ourselves.
So given what you just said, which is profound, what does that mean in terms of how we educate our children, our young folks in our own community? Should we be talking about educating and supplementing what they're getting in class
Absolutely.
with some humanity?
Absolutely, and I think
education.
from a perspective of humanity, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? The four beings. Human beings make up. They probably have one of the shortest life expectancies of any species. About 75 years, right? So during that time, you have birth, growth, reproduction, and death. We only have 4 cycles: birth, growth, reproduction, and death. You have 75 years in which to go through those, right? So if you're 25 years old, 1/3 of your life is over. If you are 37 years old, 50% of your life is over. But it's not what you didn't do or did do with the first half of your life. The question is, what are you going to do with what's left? I'm 91, so I've got maybe 3 or 4 more years to live. You have no idea how I'm trying so hard to reconcile everything. The good, the bad, and the indifferent. Looking at myself and calling myself out, right? For things that I coulda, woulda, shoulda done. And I'm at peace with myself because at some point in time, I know I'm going to die. I'm not afraid of dying, right? But I don't want to die without some dignity. I don't want to die without facing the 90-some years that I had on this earth and the contributions I made that people talk about as good, but people should also recognize as a failing human being. I have to look at all the things I've done that may not have been so good.
Well, please allow me to say that 91 years of good life well lived.
God is good. God is good.
So thank you.
God is good.
Quick question from Jonathan. I heard you mention a few names like David Richardson, who I admire. as well. I didn't hear you mention Reverend Leon Sullivan at all, and I was very surprised.
Oh God, Leon and I were the best of friends. I loved him dearly. Loved
Great
him.
Lion of Zion.
The Lion of Zion. And I remember when I was called on to do the negotiate between MOVE, the shootout, what would eventually become the shootout in 1978, right? I spent a year down there trying hard to de-escalate the police confrontation at that house, right? And I called Leon, I called Reverend Sullivan, and I said, I need your help. I need you to put together all the big money people, the Wanamakers, and I need you to have them make a statement in terms of calling for a de-escalation as opposed to an aggression. And done, right? I mean, he said, here, I just can't praise him enough. Not just because of that, but I remember when he did the boycott against Tasty Cake. I remember people remember that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember when he set up the nonprofit
OIC.
OIC, but also when he
Sullivan
set up.
Trust.
How about the
Shopping mall,
shopping mall,
Progress Plaza, acquiring
Progress
that.
Plaza, right? And then finally, I had a chance to re-engage with each other. I was working with some guys from the African Conference, right? Who had been exiled out of South Africa and came to Philadelphia, and everybody said, go see Walt Palmer, see if he can help push the message, right? So we spent 25 years trying to get Mandela out of prison. And he, Leon, of course, was the person who put the Sullivan principles together to eventually get him out of jail, right? And I'll tell you the story which may help also in terms of my position, right? I spent 25 years in this city trying hard to get people to unite around Nelson Mandela and with the, African Conference guys that were here. Then when he finally got out, there was going to be, he's coming to Philadelphia and to the convention center. And they wanted me to come to meet him, and I wouldn't go. And I said, the reason I can't go is because we spent 25 years, a quarter of a century, trying hard to get him out and trying to get people to come out and participate in Blood Diamonds and that sort of thing. And we couldn't get 12 people at 12 noon. But when it came to him coming, here they come, out of the woodworks. Here they come.
Yeah.
All the photo ops.
Yeah.
It just the wrong motivation. I said, I know I would not contain myself if I went. So I never got a chance to meet him. I said, tell him I love him, tell him I'm excited, right? I support him, right? I'd have to do it from a distance, right?
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Palmer, what advice would you give us? And I admire Dr. Womack. He's doing some phenomenal work with United Negro College Fund. He raised over $150 million.
I remember hearing that.
I accompanied him on one occasion. He took youth from all over the United States of America to places like Google, exposing them to that world. And I think that's huge. But I don't know, over the last 20, 30 years, the numbers haven't moved that much. They've moved in terms of black athletes, but not black ownership in sports. They moved in terms of our black athletes making these universities wealthier and don't honor a community benefits agreement.
Yep.
I don't know if Temple University honored community benefits agreement with the Leah Core Center.
Yeah.
Or if we talked about the Black Bottom, we talked about the Science Center, but did they honor or was there a community benefits agreement? How can, in your opinion, get jiggy with it with us, how can we really scale up? And I know you talked about the humanities part, understanding who we are, knowing our history, but other than that, what recommendations would you give us to scale up more blacks in artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning?
So I think that all that has to be done, but I think it has to be done in perspective. You can't let the humanity part's got to be the driving force. We do it because the advanced humanity, which eventually humanity comes to an end. So our humanity is personal from 0 to 75, right? So we're trying. So that's what fires me up. That's what makes me fight. That's what makes me want to that's what makes me go to jail, right? Because I feel so strongly about my humanity and your humanity, right, that I'm willing to take those risks. So along the way, we got obstacles. We got institutions like schools and colleges, right, who have bought into the, white skin privilege, black skin disadvantage, right? And it's a social construction, but they can't. It's a narrative. They can't get away from it. It's an idea. It's a philosophy, right? So we should not be feeling that we are defining something new. This is the way they have these systems, and people are behind the systems that have been doing this. So how do we drive this and put together schools with our churches and our community centers and in our homes, right? Black People's University started in my house in that two-bedroom area that me and my siblings were in, right?
Right.
And they're never going to allow us to be able to be equal because the society was set up for us not to be equal. 400 years is hard to traverse. How can you do 400 years of hunger, poverty, disease, kidnap, murder, rape, breeding, forcing black women to breed, right, whether they want to or not, with Africans or without Africans, right? Things you can't forget, and if you do forget it, right, you're not going to be able to overcome it. The Jews said, never forget. Never forget. People are upset with the Jews because the Jews were able to find out these different techniques and different strategies, right? What they did was they learned early on that it's important to be in key places, always stay grounded in terms of the Torah and the Talmud and our belief system, right? But never get away from the fact that you're going to have to fight when it comes to the society. Jews have had to fight just like we have, right? But Jews were able to have an advantage over us because they were able to break down barriers. They have light skin. So color has been one of the indicators that have been used against us to keep us down, right? Yeah. So how can we teach them in the churches? How can we put together pods in the neighborhood?
Right.
See, it's not attractive, so a lot of people don't want to do that, right? And a lot of people say, look at all that money that's over there. They need to do this. They're not going to do it. Right. Stop wasting your time. Every day, you're a day closer to your grave. You're just waiting for your death, for something that's not going to happen. Now, classic example, DEI. Who would have thought the DEI would die? But you should have. Because they used to talk about quotas for black people, and that was challenged. Right. Then they said affirmative action. They did that, but then they loaded everybody into it, not just blacks, women, Asians, Latinos, people of color. I'm not a person of color. I'm not a part of that group. I am and I'm not.
You're a human being.
I'm not just a human being, I'm also a descendant of African as a human being, right? And my story is a very unique story. It's a very unique story. If you lump me in with everybody else, that means that my story gets watered. Right. But what happened to us was never happened anywhere in the world, in world history.
That's a powerful statement for a couple reasons. One, I used to get into some arguments amongst friends that where I would say, what you just said, that we're a new creature.
Yeah.
And unlike the Jewish community or Asian communities, or even African communities that come here, our narrative was broken violently.
Yeah.
And so we've had to recreate and reconstruct who we are in a very hostile environment.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. It ain't easy.
Yeah. We have to teach the children how to fight.
Yeah.
and how to protect themselves. At the same time, we have to protect them while we're teaching them how to protect themselves, right? A society that focuses on just the elderly will die.
Right.
A society that only focuses on the youth will die.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless there is some interaction between young people and older people, right?
Yeah.
Older people are not wise just because they're older.
They've
They're
survived.
wise because they've experienced and they've grown, right? And young people are not strong just because they're young, because strength is not just physical, it's also mental, emotional, it's spiritual, right? But they don't learn that until they interact with someone who's older, who's lived that experience.
Well, that's the paradox of change. Those who create the change won't understand it.
Yeah.
What happens, and those that benefit
Yeah.
from the change won't understand all the stuff it took
Yeah.
to make the change in the first place.
Tolstoy said,
Yeah.
everybody talks about changing the world,
Right.
but nobody wants to change themselves.